Good morning. Let me introduce myself. So during this conference, we have decided to do like a brief introduction, a brief deepening of the marine market with our correspondent for the Middle East and the Russian markets, Velchev. Yavor, correct me if I pronounce your name wrongly, which I probably have done.
No, very good, very good.
Okay, so I have to say that in the past 36 months, the marine market, especially the alley machinery market, our focus is on the alley machinery, has going through some extraordinary moments. We had probably the softest market ever registered at the end of 2018 in terms of rates and deductible, in terms and conditions, generally speaking. This has seen like a very strong turn, so the market has turned to in favor of insurers and reinsurers at the end of 2018. After that, the hardening of the market has gone through, I would say, almost 3 years of recover. The market trend was very strong, both on the direct insurance side and on the reinsurance side. We have been through a global pandemic, so which has completely reshaped our way of work, especially in the London market, where the market itself, the Lloyd's market, has been closed for almost the whole of the pandemic, 18 months. And these extraordinary times have not stopped. Now we see in the continental European market and in the London market a bit of disalignment between the direct, the insurance side, where after 3 years of increases in rates and deductible, the insurers are a little bit under pressure to slow this pace and probably go flat. And the insurance market, which is more, I wouldn't say technical, but looks more to the performances, that is trying to resist this trend. So there is little bit of disalignment between the insurance side and the reinsurance side. Just 1 second on the R.I.B Marine team, which I work for. I work together with Flavio Nuna, I would say a legend on the Italian market and in the London market as well, with Gabriele, which is more focused on the cargo side, Gabriele Galanti, and then Monica Rizzi, which is very, very professional and reliable partner for the technical side, and a new join which has recently joined, 2 years ago, which is Carmelo Mazzitelli. Then I leave the stage to Yavor to introduce himself, and then I will try to ask him a couple of questions.
Well, Stefano, thank you very much. Grazie for your nice introduction. I will briefly introduce myself. I have been in the marine insurance business for the last plus 16, 17 years. I used to work for a large broker in Central Europe, and I was a senior claims executive and legal counsel. My expertise encompassed very complicated matters and complex cases, including hull and machinery, P&I, FD&D, cargo, arbitrations, and high court proceedings. So in my work, I coordinated all the internal and external experts, such as surveyors, loss adjusters, law houses, weather experts, metallurgists, etc., into combining one whole picture in order to resolve disputes between ship owners, charterers, cargo interests, etc. Now, in 2016, I founded Shippossible, and I slowly started to turn to the commercial side, still having my claims expertise and my legal expertise in order to properly comprehend the wording of a policy and the clauses of the policy. So I think it's imperative for a broker to be well professional and cognizant with the quality of the slip and not just the signature and the price. In my mind, the brokers should have that baggage in their minds in order to assist everybody along the chain on how to best select and behave under a policy. This is about myself. This is about Shippossible. Now, I am very glad to have been invited and asked by R.I.B to speak briefly about the trends and the conditions of the two geographical regions which Stefano mentioned. One is the Russian market, which we often deal with, and the other one is the Middle East market that we often deal with as well. I will start with just several sentences about both places, because we don't want to go too detailed or too long and to bore you. The purpose of this conversation is to give a brief picture of the current trends of these markets. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So as concerns the Russian markets, it's a market that starts alphabetically with R, and the three probably words that best define the Russian markets are also starting with R. One is ratings, the other one is rates, and the other one is regulation. Now, the more A-rated markets that are trying to infiltrate that market and to play a role in it, the more rapid softening conditions we would theoretically experience, and the more rating sensitive the clients would become, so the stricter the regulations would be introduced. Interestingly, in Russia, the marine market isn't the leading market. Now the most modern products are the pandemic outbreak, the business interruption, and the changes in legislation and regulation. The last 10 years trend in the Russian market has been, I would say, rather more on the sad side than on the happy side. We've seen introduction of sanctions, we've seen the revision of the value of the ruble, we've seen the market shrinking because of the aging of the fleets on the marine side, we've seen decreased possibilities from the customers to choose and to select foreign underwriters. However, we have been noticing and discussing with our partners in these markets that currently the trends are rather moving towards a happier picture, a more positive outlook. This is mostly because there has been a new demand for new ships, which of course are in the building process and which will rejuvenate the entire profile of the Russian market and the ship owning profile. Now, coming with this, there is of course a new push for higher rates because of the cost of the vessels are higher. Therefore, the hull and machinery values become higher. And now, traditionally, as we may know, the Russian market has been heavily leaning towards the European capacities, i.e. very solid names such as Lloyd's. You would find that most of the Russian insurers are reinsuring their capacities mostly at Lloyd's. So we would see the big players on the reinsurance slips of the Russian underwriters. As concerns the local players, there has been...
May I ask you something? What about this? What about the sanctions? This, as the sanctions took away the Lloyd's capacity or the continental European capacity, or there has been ways through, say, avoid this and still provide their insurance to the Russian carriers?
Thank you, Stefano, for this question, because it's a very good question. In fact, you catch me on the spot. I have been giving lectures in 2 different countries about sanctions and about the latest sanction regimes and the shipping. Now, I wouldn't say that an assured entity needs to avoid sanctions. On the contrary, when a policy is bound, as you know, and as we all know, the underwriters are under the obligation, or they would rather do due diligence and sanction checks in order to screen their client, the potential assured, and to see whether there aren't any SDN issues, whether there aren't any listings issues, etc. When that due diligence is performed and it is seen that the trade, or rather the material interest that is being insured, does not fall within the scope of either European or US or international sanctions, then even if some of the entities are geographically positioned within territories against which sanctions are imposed, that is not an obstacle for a policy to be concluded. Therefore, to simplify the answer, we can freely do insurance despite the fact that a certain country has sanctions, trading sanctions imposed against it, which is the case with Russia. Russia continues to successfully develop marine insurance, although there are sanctions against Russia. Just a final word about this question. Russia is, of course, not the only country that has sanctions against. There is a very large list of countries that have sanctions against them. In fact, some countries impose reverse sanctions against each other as a response to each other. But that does not prevent marine insurance to operate entirely successfully in these fields. Now, because of the time, and we're being time sensitive, if you allow me to, I would move on to the second geographical area.
Thank you very much. Your answer is very clear. So if you can say, give us your feelings, your overview of another market where you have a lot of contacts, which is the Middle East, like for instance, including a very important region in the shipping market, which is Turkey.
Yes. Okay. So we have been, before this interview, I have been sounding out the impressions of our partners in the Middle East, as you say. Now, in the Middle East, the local players aren't perhaps powerful enough to act as leaders. So we would mostly see them in their role as followers, which is quite okay. Generally speaking, the Middle East market would tend to be more attractive, price sensitive, and cheaper than the Lloyd's market, which is quite understandable, and then the European markets. That would also mean the Scandinavian markets, perhaps Central European markets, etc. So it is in fact a good alternative to consider when composing a schedule of underwriters and the slip.
Yeah.
Now, what we
so
have
you are
been
saying, sorry if I interrupt, you are saying that the major Middle East players, they don't act as leaders, but they could complete the placement if there is like a Central European or an Italian lead or a Scandinavian lead or a Lloyd's lead.
Absolutely correct. So if a client is lacking 30 or 40% on the slip to complete, to achieve 100% capacity, then we can assist in approaching Middle East markets and obtain their indications or quotations as following shares in that slip. And we see that happening quite often.
Yeah, we see it as well on the Mediterranean fleet, where sometimes fleets needing very high capacity, there is not enough capacity, or better, there is capacity enough, but because the client is always price sensitive, in order to say complete the placement at more favorable terms to the ship owner, basically to the insured, to the policyholder, sometimes the direct broker they complete some shares of the placement with some Middle Eastern market. Thank you very much
Exactly.
for this.
Exactly,
What about
Stefano.
the level of expertise, knowledge on hull machinery, on cargo of the Middle East market, which is a market that is growing very fast in this area?
Yes. Now the feedback that we receive is that there is even a bigger need for expertise in the marine fields and in the energy and offshore fields, meaning that technical knowledge can be even more improved in order to understand the policy, to understand the condition of a risk, whether a ship is in a good seaworthy condition or perhaps not so, whether an offshore unit is a good one or perhaps not so. So the underwriters and the MGAs are trying to seek and to attract expertise, even from brokers, in order to know better how to select submissions. Let's say, as brokers, if we send out 10 submissions to a certain underwriter, he may decline 8 or 9 of them if they're too complex, simply because he doesn't have the necessary technical skills or team to comprehend what is behind the papers.
The state of the vessel, the condition of the insurance, okay, fine. The engines, this kind of, okay.
As you know, as we all know, with the submission, we also send a 5-year loss record. In some cases, 3-year loss record. But even that sometimes does not bring comfort enough within the underwriting team to comprehend the behavior of a fleet or of a unit. So in the Middle East, it has been underlined to us that the need for expertise remains to be improved. Okay? Reinsurers, on the other hand, in the Middle East, are slightly trying to shrink their capacity simply because they cannot withhold the competition. But this is generally the state of the Middle East.
So you are saying that in the Middle East, as well is in action the trend that we see in the London market, in the continental European market, where possibly their insurers are not, they don't have the capabilities to follow such low prices and low condition as in that the direct insurers are trying to applicate. I'm right?
That's exactly what I was trying to explain. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I have to say we are, as you said, the time is the king. So I thank you very much for your overview about these two markets, which they seem very far away, but they are not. Possibly the Russian market, I have to say, is still very far away from the European market for cultural reason and the sanction regime that is in place. But surely the Middle East market is much more closer than we think. So I thank you, Yavor, for your time, your words, and I hope to continue our cooperation strongly in the future. Thank you very much.
Definitely so. Thank you very much. Vice versa.